Okay, so in this part, we basically just trying to figure out as to whether we're dealing with a second-hand good, and as to whether there would be a VAT or notional VAT, or if there would not be notional VAT. And we'll basically bring in a situation where we have a VAT vendor and we also don't have a VAT vendor. And so let's basically start here. So we have a VAT vendor. So we have a VAT vendor. So we have an option of either yes or no as to whether there would be VAT. And what kind of VAT would be that would be levied? Would it be actual VAT or would it be notional VAT? Basically, so we've got new goods in this first line, and the seller is a VAT vendor. So new goods is a VAT vendor. So let's take that. The VAT vendor, new goods. Would they be VAT? Let's say would they be VAT? WTV, would they be VAT? And I would say yes. Y for yes. And then we'd say, okay, is a VAT vendor, we're dealing with new goods, and we take the block of saying is a VAT vendor, would there be VAT? We either have an option of yes or no. We've marked the block Y, and reflecting yes. And what kind of VAT would we have? Are we going to have actual VAT, or are we going to have notional VAT? In this case, we're going to have actual VAT. So we reflect it as AV, actual VAT. Right? It's actual VAT to us. I hope this makes sense. So let's start again. It's a new good by the seller who's a vendor. So yes, we tick the box of the vendor. Would it be VAT? Would there be VAT? Yes, there would be VAT in this transaction. So we mark Y for yes. Would it be actual VAT or notional VAT? It would be actual VAT. Okay. Now, we don't have, it's not a VAT vendor. The seller is not a VAT vendor in this instance. So if it's not a VAT vendor, we're going to tick this block of a VAT vendor with the tick of describing, demonstrating us to say that we don't have a VAT vendor. Would there be VAT? If it's not a VAT vendor, therefore there won't be VAT because I won't be able to claim from him. He's a VAT vendor. He's not a VAT vendor, sorry. So would there be actual VAT, notional VAT? There won't be any form of VAT because we don't have he's not a VAT vendor. And in any case, I won't be able to recognize notional input because it's new goods in any case. Okay, so second part, we've got second-hand goods, all goods. So we've got a VAT vendor, so we tick the box. Got a VAT vendor, we tick that box. Would there be VAT? If it's a VAT vendor, would be VAT. We tick the box. So if it's a VAT vendor, would there be actual VAT or notional VAT? There would be actual VAT. Why? Actual VAT because he's a VAT vendor. So obviously you would have charged VAT. He's a VAT vendor. So we can claim actual VAT. That's why we've got AV here. Now in this instance, even though it's a second-hand good, but you'd still be charging us actual VAT because he's an actual VAT vendor. What about this instance? Not a VAT vendor. He's not a VAT vendor, so therefore you take that block, tick, demonstrating is not a VAT vendor. Would there be VAT? He's not a VAT vendor. There would be VAT. Why would there be VAT? Because I can claim notional input VAT. Because he's not a VAT vendor, but it's a second-hand good. I'm assumed to be a VAT vendor. Therefore, I can claim notional input VAT in this case. Right? So, we need to be very careful of that principle. So the best way of thinking about it is that the status of the seller will likely determine as to whether you'll be able to claim notional input VAT or not. So if the status of the seller is a non-vendor, like as in this case is a non-vendor, is not a VAT vendor, therefore I'll be able to claim notional input VAT. Whereas in this instance, he was a VAT vendor. Therefore, the status of the seller will determine as to whether I can claim actual VAT. So in this instance, I can claim actual VAT because he's a VAT vendor. So am I. So I can claim actual VAT. Status of the seller will determine my position, which is why I'm claiming actual VAT. Whereas in this instance, he is indeed is a non-vendor, right? However, it's not a second-hand good, but it's a new good. Even though he's a non-vendor, I cannot claim notional input VAT because he's a non-vendor. Because why? Because it's a new good. It doesn't qualify as a second-hand good. Be very careful about that. Other people usually get excited when they realize somebody is not a non-vendor without realizing that the underlying asset being dealt with is actually a new good, which doesn't really qualify as being called a second-hand good. So be very mindful of that. Whereas with this situation, it's a new good and he's a vendor, so therefore I've ticked the box. Yes, indeed, there will be VAT because he's an actual VAT vendor. Therefore, I claim actual VAT. So be very careful about such scenarios happening as well. Okay, so if we're to extend this a bit, then, and say, let's draw a line here, and say, we still have a situation, but let's rather divide it. Let's rather divide these sections before we confuse people.